Aquarius, before you listen to anything else today, hear this carefully. This is not a motivational message. This is not random content. And this is not showing up in your feed by accident. Something unexpected is already moving toward you. It wasn't planned. It wasn't announced. And if you dismiss this message too quickly, you could miss it entirely. Right now, as you're watching this, events are quietly shifting behind the scenes. Conversations are happening without your name being spoken out loud, but your energy is involved. Decisions are forming that will affect you directly, even if you don't see them yet. And here's why this matters. December 27th is not a normal day for Aquarius energy. This date activates something rare for your sign, a sudden release of pressure followed by rapid movement. That's why the last few days may have felt strange. Not bad, not good, just, almost like the calm before something breaks open. Within the next 24 to 72 hours, 6 separate pieces of good news attempt to enter your life. But here's the danger most Aquarians don't realize. These blessings do not arrive loudly. They don't come wrapped in excitement or celebration. They arrive quietly, disguised as small moments, unexpected messages, casual conversations, or changes that seem minor at first. They won't arrive how you expect. They won't come from who you expect. And they may test whether you're truly ready or just hoping. This is where many Aquarians fail the test, because your sign is intuitive, intelligent, and forward-thinking. But you also tend to overanalyze timing. You question, why now? Why this way? Why from them? And while you're questioning, the moment passes. Some Aquarians will recognize the signs immediately. They'll feel the shift in their body before it shows up in reality. They'll pause instead of rushing. They'll observe instead of reacting. Others will brush it off. They'll tell themselves, it's probably nothing. I'll deal with it later. I don't have time for this. And later, they'll realize what they missed. Because the universe doesn't chase. It presents once. And Aquarius, this window is brief. What's arriving is connected to something you've mentally released, something you stopped forcing, something you quietly accepted might never change. That's exactly why it's moving now. But listen closely, because this part is critical. The final sign, the 6th piece of good news, is the one people usually miss. Not because it's weak, but because it shows up disguised as inconvenience, a delay that actually protects you, a cancelled plan that redirects you, a silence that reveals the truth. If you leave this video early, you may only recognize 5 signs, and that 6th one is what connects everything together. So stay with me till the end, not out of curiosity, out of alignment, because Aquarius, once this cycle begins, things move fast, and you won't get the luxury of second guessing. Right now, the only thing being tested is your awareness. Are you paying attention, or are you still waiting for permission? Comment now, this matters. Type, I claim it, if you're open to unexpected miracles, even if they arrive quietly. Or type, I'm ready, if you already feel something shifting but can't explain it yet. Don't overthink your answer. Your first instinct is the right one. Let's continue, because what's coming next explains why everything felt delayed until now, and why the timing suddenly changes after today. Aquarius, let me explain something most people will never tell you, because it sounds strange until you live through it. That confusion you felt lately, that sense of emotional quiet, the lack of urgency where there used to be anxiety, that wasn't you losing motivation. And the silence you've experienced, from people, from situations, from opportunities, that wasn't rejection either. You weren't falling behind. You weren't being ignored. You weren't doing anything wrong. It was preparation. Your energy was being pulled out of the noise on purpose. Because Aquarius, when something important is forming, the universe doesn't announce it. It isolates you. Think about the past few weeks. You may have noticed fewer arguments, less emotional reaction, less desire to explain yourself, less interest in chasing answers. That's not detachment, that's alignment. Your system was being recalibrated so you wouldn't sabotage what's coming by reacting too early. Now here's the part that changes everything. But here's the twist. The universe didn't slow things down to punish you. It slowed things down so others couldn't interfere. This delay wasn't about you. It was about removing distractions, opinions, jealousy, interference, and timing conflicts. So when things move, they move cleanly. Right now, while it feels quiet on your end, activity is happening elsewhere. Paperwork is being reviewed, messages are being drafted, decisions are being reconsidered, conversations are happening that you're not part of yet. And that's intentional. Because if you were involved too early, emotions would have distorted the outcome. Aquarius, this pause protected you. That's why everything felt slightly off. Not bad, not good, just suspended. Almost like time slowed down for a reason. You may have caught yourself thinking, why does it feel like nothing is happening? Why do I feel calm but unsettled at the same time? Why am I not reacting the way I used to? That's the sign. Your emotional system went quiet because it didn't need to defend itself anymore. And when that happens, it usually means the outcome is already decided. You're just waiting for it to reveal itself. Here's something important most Aquarians don't realize. When the universe is working in your favor, it often removes your urge to interfere. That's why you stopped forcing conversations. That's why you stopped checking for updates. That's why you stopped explaining yourself. You weren't giving up. You were being positioned. And this is where things change fast. Because once alignment is complete, movement doesn't happen gradually. It happens suddenly. One message changes everything. One decision flips the script. One piece of information sets off a chain reaction. That's why December 27th is significant. It's not about effort anymore. It's about timing. And Aquarius, timing is no longer working against you. What's been delayed is now being released, but only after the conditions were right. You may notice things happening quickly after this. Responses come faster. Situations resolve themselves. People act without being pushed. Answers arrive without you asking, and it will feel almost surreal, like things suddenly caught up. That's not luck. That's alignment finally kicking in. But here's a gentle warning. When things start moving again, your instinct might be to question it, to analyze it, to ask, why now? To look for hidden meaning. Resist that urge. Because this phase doesn't ask for understanding. It asks for trust. Aquarius, if you're feeling emotionally quiet right now, that's a good sign. It means your nervous system finally stopped bracing for disappointment. It means you're no longer reacting to the past. And that's exactly when new outcomes can arrive without resistance. Comment question. Your answer matters. Have you felt emotionally quiet lately? Like less reactive, less anxious, but more aware? Type yes or no below. Don't overthink it. Your response helps reveal how many Aquarians are already aligned with what's coming. Now stay with me, because next we break down the first two pieces of good news and why they arrive from completely opposite directions. Aquarius, this is where things get shocking, because what's coming doesn't follow logic, order, or expectation. Most people assume blessings arrive together, like one big moment, one clear breakthrough. That's not how this works for you. The first two pieces of good news do not arrive at the same time, and they don't come from the same part of your life. In fact, they arrive from opposite directions. One arrives professionally. This could be money, a work opportunity, delayed approval, recognition, or something related to your effort finally being seen. The other arrives emotionally, an apology you didn't expect, a reconnection you stopped hoping for, or clarity that finally answers a question you've carried quietly. Here's the part most Aquarians won't see coming, but here's the twist. The one you care less about arrives first. Let that sink in. The universe intentionally sends movement in the area you've already loosened your grip on. The job you stopped checking on, the money you stopped counting on, the situation you told yourself, if it happens, it happens. That's the one that moves. And the reason is simple, but powerful. Aquarius, detachment is your activation key. The moment you stopped needing an outcome, it became available. Now here's where the test comes in, because when that first piece of good news arrives, it will feel almost casual, not dramatic, not emotional, just resolved. And the universe is watching how you respond. Do you overanalyze it? Question why it came so easily? Or accept it calmly? Because your reaction determines the timing of the second blessing. And this one is deeper. The second piece of good news is the one you emotionally detached from, not because you didn't care, but because caring was hurting too much. A person you stopped waiting on, a conversation you gave up having, a closure you told yourself you didn't need. That's the one that suddenly moves, but only after you pass the test. The test isn't patience, it's honesty. Have you truly let go? Or are you still quietly waiting with expectation? Because Aquarius, the universe can tell the difference. If there's even a small part of you still hoping in desperation, it delays the second arrival. But if you've reached genuine neutrality, where you're okay either way, that's when the second good news hits harder. And when it arrives, it won't feel forced. It will feel natural, clean, aligned. You won't feel the need to chase, question, or replay it in your head. You'll just know this is real. Now here's something important. These two pieces of good news are connected, but not emotionally. They're connected energetically. The professional win restores your confidence. The emotional clarity restores your peace. And once both are in place, you stop negotiating your worth. That's the real breakthrough. Aquarius, think about your current life honestly. Which area feels lighter right now? Which one feels unresolved? That contrast is intentional. The universe always stabilizes one side first, so you're strong enough to receive the other. And don't be surprised if the order feels backward. The thing you thought mattered most may arrive second. The thing you thought was just practical may arrive first. That's not a mistake. That's balance being restored. Now let me tell you something important. When both of these pieces of good news arrive, you won't feel the need to announce it. You won't need validation. You won't need to explain. Because internally, something clicks into place. And that's how you know it's real. Comment prompt. This reveals a lot. Right now, which matters more to you, money or love? Type it below without thinking too long. Your answer says a lot about where you are in this cycle and helps reveal how many Aquarians are aligned with what's coming next. Stay with me, because next we're uncovering the hidden information that changes how you see the past and finally sets you free. Aquarius, listen closely, because this is the moment everything starts to make sense. This isn't about gossip, it isn't about drama, and it isn't about confronting anyone. It's about a truth you were never supposed to hear, finally surfacing on its own. A detail that was hidden, a motive that was never explained, a reason behind someone's behavior that always felt off, but you couldn't prove it. And suddenly, it appears. Not because you searched for it, not because you demanded answers, but because the timing finally allows it. Here's what makes this powerful for Aquarius. You didn't force clarity, you outgrew confusion. And when that happens, truth has a way of revealing itself without effort. But here's the twist. This information frees you, but it may temporarily shock you, not because it's devastating, but because it confirms what your intuition suspected all along. You may feel a brief pause, a quiet, "Oh, so that's why?" Not anger, not sadness, just awareness. And awareness is powerful because once this truth surfaces, 3 things become instantly clear. Why something didn't work, even though you tried. Why someone disappeared, changed, or pulled away without explanation. Why you were redirected onto a different path when you least expected it. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about releasing yourself from self-doubt. Aquarius, you questioned yourself more than you should have. You replayed moments in your head. You wondered if you said something wrong. You wondered if you should have tried harder. This information stops that cycle. Because now you see, it wasn't about effort, it wasn't about timing, and it wasn't about your worth. It was about circumstances you couldn't control. And that realization is deeply liberating. Here's the part most people don't talk about. When the truth comes out, it doesn't demand a reaction. There's no urge to confront, no need to explain, no desire to prove anything. The past simply loses its grip. The emotional weight dissolves, and you stop carrying questions that were never yours to hold. Aquarius, this truth may arrive through a casual comment, an accidental message, someone else's story, or an unexpected admission. It won't be dramatic, but it will be undeniable. And once you hear it, you won't unhear it. The good news is this: that information doesn't reopen wounds, it closes them, it validates your instincts, it restores trust in yourself, and it clears space for what's next. This is why this revelation comes before the next blessings, because the universe doesn't add new chapters until old confusion is resolved. Now let me say something important. You are not meant to act on this information. You're meant to understand it. Silence is your power here. Observation, awareness, detachment. That's how you integrate this truth without letting it disrupt your peace. And once you do, something subtle but powerful happens. Your energy shifts. You stop replaying the past. You stop needing answers. You stop wondering, what if? That's when the next doors open. Aquarius, this is not exposure energy. It's clarity energy. And clarity always comes before alignment. Engagement? Question. Be honest. Do you believe the truth always comes out in the end? Type yes if you do. Type not always if you don't. Your answer reveals a lot about how you process closure and helps us understand how many Aquarians are ready for the next phase. Stay with me, because next we talk about the opportunity or financial shift you completely stopped expecting, and why that's exactly why it's returning now. Aquarius, listen closely, because this part is subtle but powerful. What's coming to you financially or professionally doesn't arrive from something you're currently chasing. It comes from something you mentally let go of. A situation where you told yourself, I did what I could. If it happens, it happens. I'm not putting energy into that anymore. That's the key. This blessing is tied to a past effort, not a current struggle, a delayed payment you assumed was lost, an old application you forgot about, a conversation that never followed up, a side hustle, idea, or plan you quietly stopped believing in. You didn't quit because you were lazy. You quit because pushing started to drain you, and the universe noticed. Here's where it shifts. But here's the twist. What returns doesn't come back the same way. It returns stronger than before, with better terms, with clearer structure, with fewer conditions, with less effort required from you. This is not compensation. It's correction. Aquarius, The universe is not rewarding hustle here. It's rewarding alignment. You stopped forcing. You stopped chasing. You stopped trying to control timing. And that's exactly why movement happens now. This opportunity arrives at a moment when you're emotionally detached enough to make better decisions. You won't overthink it. You won't accept less than you deserve. You won't rush just because you're afraid to lose it. That's growth. Think about the difference between now and then. Before, you needed this to work. Now, you're okay either way. And that difference changes everything. When this money or opportunity returns, you may notice something strange. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels logical. Like, of course this showed up now. This makes sense. This fits my life better than before. That's how you know it's aligned. Aquarius, this is also why the universe waited. If this had come earlier, you might have accepted unfavorable terms. You might have compromised your time, energy, or peace. You might have felt pressured. Now, you're steady, and steadiness attracts better outcomes. This is also a reminder of something important. Not every delay is denial. Sometimes it's upgrading the offer. What you thought was missed was being restructured. And when it arrives, you'll realize it needed to come this way. Now let me be clear. This doesn't mean you stop taking action in life. It means you stop forcing outcomes that resist you. There's a big difference. Aquarius, your sign thrives when you allow space for things to meet you halfway. This blessing arrives because you created that space. And once it does, your relationship with money and opportunity shifts. You stop chasing security. You start choosing stability. You stop reacting. You start responding. And that's a powerful position to be in. Now here's the quiet message behind this good news. You were never behind. You were being redirected towards something more sustainable. And this is proof. Comment this to lock the energy. Type, I release control. If you're done chasing outcomes that drain you, don't type it to convince the universe. Type it to remind yourself. Now stay with me, because next we talk about someone reacting to your silence and why your absence speaks louder than anything you could have said. Aquarius. This one is powerful because it proves something important. Your silence was not ignored. It was felt. Someone has been watching you from a distance, not casually, but attentively. They noticed the shift, your silence, your withdrawal, your emotional boundary. At first, they didn't take it seriously. They told themselves you'd come back, that you'd reach out, that you'd explain, because that's what they were used to. But this time, you didn't. And that changed the dynamic completely. But here's the twist. They expected you to chase. They expected a reaction. They expected reassurance. They expected weakness. Instead, they felt absence. And absence is louder than words. When you stopped engaging, something unexpected happened. They had to sit with their own thoughts. They had to replay conversations. They had to feel the weight of not hearing from you. That silence became a mirror. Aquarius. Silence is not punishment, it's clarity. And clarity forces people to confront what they avoided. That's why now they act. Not dramatically, not perfectly, but deliberately. A message they've rewritten multiple times. A call they hesitated to make. An unexpected move they didn't plan on taking. And when it happens, it may catch you off guard. Not because you're waiting, but because you weren't. That's the power shift. You see, when someone reacts to your silence, it means one thing. They realized your presence had value. And value is only noticed when it's removed. Aquarius, this isn't about ego, it's about respect. You didn't withdraw to manipulate. You withdrew to protect your peace. And that energy is felt. Now here's the important part. When they reach out, your instinct might be to respond immediately. Pause. This moment isn't about rushing back into old patterns. It's about observing. Are their words different? Is their energy grounded? Is there accountability? Or just curiosity? Because silence doesn't just trigger action, it reveals intention. And Aquarius, you're not here to repeat cycles. You're here to change the standard. If this person truly values you, their approach will reflect growth, not urgency. If they're only reacting to discomfort, you'll feel it immediately. Trust that. Your intuition is sharp right now. This is also why this good news comes after the financial and clarity shifts. You're no longer reacting from lack. You're responding from stability. That makes all the difference. And here's something else to understand. Not everyone reacts to silence. Some disappear. And that too is information. Silence doesn't force people to stay. It reveals who was never aligned to begin with. Aquarius, that's not loss, that's alignment. So whether this reconnection becomes a conversation, closure, or confirmation, it serves you. Because now you're choosing, not chasing. And that's the real victory. Comment question. Let's talk about this. Should people value you more when you go quiet? Type absolutely if silence reveals true respect. Type depends if you believe context matters. Aquarius, this is justice energy, the quiet kind that doesn't need revenge, explanations, or proof. This is about something that felt unfair for a long time. A situation where you gave more than you received. A moment where your intentions were misunderstood. A chapter that drained you emotionally, mentally, or even financially. You carried the weight silently. You didn't get closure. You didn't get an apology. You didn't get validation. And for a while, it felt like you never would. But here's what changes now. But here's the twist. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. You don't need to explain. You don't need to correct the story. You don't need to prove your side. The universe does it for you. And it does it in ways that feel almost surreal. Someone realizes they were wrong. Not because you convinced them, but because reality forced clarity. A situation corrects itself, not through confrontation, but through natural consequences. A misunderstanding resolves, not publicly, but internally where it matters most. This is karma doing its job, not loudly, not dramatically, but accurately. Aquarius, karma doesn't always punish. Sometimes it educates. And once that education happens, balance is restored. You may notice it subtly at first. A shift in how someone treats you. A change in tone. A sudden respect where there used to be dismissal. Or you may never hear about it at all. And that's okay. Because this kind of justice isn't about being seen. It's about being freed. You're released from carrying something that was never meant to stay with you. And once that release happens, something powerful follows. Your energy lightens, your focus sharpens, your self-trust returns. That's how you know karma has shifted. Here's something important to understand. Justice doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means separation with clarity. Sometimes it means the universe removing you from situations that would have continued draining you. And sometimes it means people finally seeing you clearly after you've already moved on. Aquarius, that's not too late. That's right on time. Because the point wasn't their realization. The point was your liberation. You outgrew the need for validation. You stopped waiting for fairness. And that's when fairness arrives. This karmic flip also restores something else, your confidence. You no longer question your decisions. You no longer replay conversations. You no longer wonder if you were too much or not enough. You were exactly what the situation required. And now the universe confirms that. You may feel a quiet sense of peace after this. No excitement, no adrenaline, just steadiness. That's karmic closure. And it's powerful because from this place, you make better choices. You stop tolerating confusion. You stop shrinking yourself. You stop negotiating your worth. You trust that what's meant for you doesn't need defending. Aquarius, this is why this is the final piece of good news. Because once karma aligns in your favor, nothing from the past has power over you anymore. You don't chase justice. Justice finds you. Comment this if you feel it deeply. What's mine finds me. Type it not as a wish, but as a knowing Aquarius. Pause for a moment and hear this very carefully. What you've just heard isn't hype, it isn't prediction, and it isn't coincidence. It's a window, and windows don't stay open forever. Right now, everything we've talked about is already in motion. The clarity, the opportunity, the karmic balance, the unexpected messages. They don't need your help. They need your restraint. Don't announce your plans. Don't explain your healing. Don't rush the outcome. This is not the time to perform progress. It's the time to protect it. Aquarius, one of the fastest ways people disrupt alignment is by inviting opinions too early. The moment you explain what's changing in your life, someone else projects fear, doubt, or limitation onto it. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not meant to carry your vision. That's why silence matters now. Not secrecy, not isolation, just selective awareness. Observe what unfolds without labeling it too quickly. Let things arrive fully formed before you touch them. Because once these 6 pieces of good news arrive, life doesn't ask you to work harder. It asks you to trust. Trust the timing, trust the order, trust your instincts. You've already done the hard part. You didn't quit when nothing made sense. Now, effort turns into interference. And Aquarius, interference is how miracles get delayed. Here's something important to understand. When alignment is real, it feels quiet. No rush, no anxiety, no need to convince anyone, just a steady sense of knowing. That's where you are now. And that's why this final warning exists. Don't rush to figure it all out. Don't demand certainty before movement. Don't test the universe with doubt. Let confirmation come to you. If this message found you, it wasn't random. You weren't meant to hear this earlier, and you weren't meant to hear it later. You were meant to hear it now, when you're calm enough not to panic and grounded enough not to force. Aquarius, the next few days aren't about action. They're about recognition, recognizing signs, recognizing shifts, recognizing when something aligns without resistance. And when it does, you'll know. No announcement needed, no explanation required, just gratitude and awareness. Before you go, lock this energy in. Final comment, prompt, this is important. Type, I trust the process. If you stayed till the end and felt this resonate, not as a wish, as a statement, like if this message felt accurate. Subscribe if you want daily Aquarius guidance without noise. Share this with another Aquarius. Not everyone needs it, but someone you know does. Stay grounded, stay observant, and most importantly, don't ruin the miracle by doubting it before it arrives.